My great privilege to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kushali Gambhir. So Dr. Kushali Gambhir is a senior consultant homeopath and the chief consultant of Dr. Kushali Homeopathic Clinic, Chennai, with over 29 years of clinical experience. She specializes in women's health, menopause management, and breast health, with a strong emphasis on research-oriented homeopathic practice. Her academic exposure includes advanced training in immunology, clinical nutrition, and mental health first aid from reputed international institutions. She is a recognized speaker at national and international platforms, including Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis, Indian Menopause Society, and Integrative Medicine conferences abroad. She is an awardee of the Indian Menopause Society. So Madam is also actively involved in social service, awareness programs, and academic writing. Now I welcome you, ma'am.
Hello everyone, my respected moderators on the dais, respected President, Tamil Nadu Homeopathic Medical Council, the fantastic organizers, the dignitaries of the 7 colleges, and above all, the energy bombs in the audience. The surprise element of this slide didn't happen, I don't know why. But let's start with a case. So Mrs. VK, she's 63 years old and she presented to me for varicose ulcers. And she had recurrent varicose ulcers and for which she was responding fantastically with homeopathy. Seeing the response, she said from 1 year she's been having pricking pain and a lump in the breast with a little bit of discoloration. She didn't tell her family members because she herself was single, living with her retired brother and wife, and they were financially limited. So what's the first thing? What's the discipline? I was told Coimbatore is the land of discipline, so the first discipline of medicine, especially in such a case. Can anyone say so? Any idea? What is the first step forward here? The answer is already there. That's why that animation didn't work. It's the bedside examination, the breast examination. We can never rule out a breast examination for a woman. And on examination was a stony hard lump with puckering. Now in this case, I chose to refer her first because it is 1 year duration. I first chose to refer her to the surgeon for further evaluation. And then we have the whole diagnosis of invasive carcinoma, and she went through a right-sided mastectomy. She was told to take chemotherapy, but they could not afford it, and hence she was put on endocrine therapy of letrozole. She was supported simultaneously with homeopathy, and what we see is at the end of the 1 year that there is no recurrence. Of course, 1 year is too early, but she was comfortable. Her line of treatment from conventional medicine was not interrupted, but there was quality of life for her. Her emotional needs were taken care of and her quality of life was taken care of. Each phase prescription, from the phase of pre-diagnosis as well as till the diagnostic phase, we saw while all the other investigations, now in conventional medicine the investigations itself takes so long. So while all those investigations were going on, she was treated with Thuja 0 bar 1, Conium, Vipera and Carboveg were maintained, which were her original medicines for her varicose ulcers. In the pre-operative and the peri-operative stage, predominantly healing was looked at. And post-mastectomy, Calendula staphysagra was given, Conium was given. This was later changed to constitutional medicines, Vipera, Calcarea carb, Ignatia, Natramune. So friends, this is a continuum. I'm here to speak on evidence-based homeopathy for breast health. And let me assure you, every clinic will get breast health cases for sure. This is gentle medicine for a very sensitive tissue. We underestimate the number of breast cases that we are going to be seeing in our clinic. It is an extremely common but underdiagnosed condition, discussed condition. The fear of cancer is something that looms large, leading to a lot of anxiety to the patient as well as to either over-treatment and excessive diagnostic measures which are needed. But the truth lies that it is at least around 75% biopsies turn out to be benign. 46% is the rate of fibroadenomas. Homeopathy's strength lies in the fact it has the capacity of early intervention and long-term survival. We have just seen this whole lecture on how the quality of life improves in the previous lecture. So breast health is not just about cancer. There's a lot more to it. It is a sensitive tissue. It is a sensitive area. It needs sensitive intervention. Why is the breast organ itself such an important tissue? The breast is an organ of hormone responsive organ. It is an organ which rich lymphatic supply, and it is highly sensitive to stress, estrogen progesterone imbalances and metabolic as well as inflammatory loads. This is what makes it very susceptible to change. I'm not going to read out all these conditions because every practitioner here will see minimum 5 of these every day in the clinic. And these are literally going to be flooding your clinics when you step out into the world. Now, let's understand the BIRADS. This is an important aspect of breast health. It is the breast imaging reporting data systems. This is an important structural system by the radiology, started by the American Radiology Institutes, and they gave this structure in order to help clinicians and ancillary healthcare in order how to take forward the treatment protocols. When we see BIRAD 0, it means incomplete or not adequate data, or the scans were not clear, or you need comparisons from the previous scans. When we look at BIRADS 1, it is a normal study. BIRADS 2 states benign. BIRADS 3 says probably benign, which means it needs 6 months follow-ups, and it also needs, it has less than 2% conversion rate to malignancy. BIRADS 4 has a 2 to 95% conversion to malignancy, and BIRADS 4 is a suspicious lesion warranting 3 months follow-ups. BIRADS 5 is malignant. Now the key message here is that BIRADS 1 to BIRADS 3 is a strong window of opportunity for a homeopath. BIRATS 4 and 5 is possible, but needs maturity, needs ethics, and needs collaboration and lot of surveillance. Per se, when it comes to breast health, it is all about physical examination as well as imaging. However, there are some important investigations that do take help. We see the Well Women's investigations on the left-hand side, which is there, which everyone goes through. But as a homeopath, it would be interesting to ask for a few more, which is the thyroid antibodies, because someone with Hashimoto's thyroid disease shows lots of fluctuations. When there are lots of fluctuations, the chance of the breast tissue reacting becomes higher. C-reactive protein along with ESR speaks of inflammatory pathologies. Prolactin, consistent high prolactinemia will cause ductal dilatations. Of course, estradiol, progesterone, so high estrogen levels are also not very good for the breast. And cortisol is again the stress hormones. From an organon perspective, I'm not going into the details, but what I would like to highlight out here is aphorism 3 does show what needs to be cured. So the pathophysiology is essential. Aphorism 5 brings in the constitution, the lifestyle, the environment of the patient. And aphorism 7 highlights the importance of the deviation from the dynamic, the original vital force. So breast pathology is usually hormone dysregulation most often, emotional suppression, and definitely chronic miasmatic tendencies. If you look at the miasms, simplifying miasms, let's not go into too much of detail, but simplest is SORA, is the functional aspect. So it will be a pain, congestion, sensitivities. When it comes to psychosis, it is the structural aspect, and we see a lot of this in breast health in terms of fibroadenomas, cysts, tumors, nodularities. Syphilis is pure destruction, ulceration, and tubercular when there is a lot of recurrence. So you would have had someone gone and surgically remove the fibroadenoma and then you get it again. Your breast cyst has dissolved, but it comes back. Some of the remedies which are commonly used in my clinic are, when it comes to cyclical, that is premenstrual breast disorders, Bryonia and Agnus castus have helped us. A note on Agnus castus is when we see patients with PCOS, with breast tenderness premenstrually, and we check their hormone levels and we see high prolactin, that's when we use Agnus castus, because it helps to reduce the prolactin levels also. Lactation. Now, we have been talking about the disorders of the breast, but what about the healthy breast? The healthy breast has to perform its duty, and that comes in lactation. And lactation is lactafloritum, Ricinus communis, and Agnus castus again. The remaining are mastitis, fibroadenoma, nipple cracks. Nipple cracks is again a very important aspect, because as the child nurses, there can be a lot of cracks, and calendula and graphites work beautifully. Let's go on to some of the cases. So, Mrs. S.K., who's 38 years old, a young mother, first pregnancy, she had a low milk supply. Concomitantly, she had nasal discharge, which was crusting. Now, she went through an elective LSCS and due to oligohydramnios. Now, she was treated with lactafloritum and Agnus castus and Arum triphyllum for the concomitant. And we have the Materia Medica references over here, but she didn't have much results. Despite a lot of trying to breastfeed, she wasn't getting the results. And that's when we changed over to Ricinus communis. There are a lot of Materia Medica references across different repertories and Materia America for Ricinus communis, but I'm going to highlight an interesting study that was done on cows in Tamil Nadu by Venkateshwara Homeopathic Medical College. It was a comparative study of Ricinus communis with Calcarea carb. And what it found was that Ricinus communis showed better nutrient quality than Calcarea carb. Both were very good galactagogues, which means they enhance the milk production, but the quality of the milk was better with Ricinus communis. I'm going to speak a lot on Thuja. This paper was presented in Malaysia in the Integrative Conference where Dr. Jaykumar and I were there together. It was also presented for the Indian Menopause Society, the role of Thuja. And we are all familiar that Thuja, we use it when it comes to warts. So essentially think proliferative disorders. Here is a study in the Journal of Nephrology which has shown the effectiveness of Thuja on warts for a transplant patient. This study showed, this presentation basically had the role of homeopathic medicine Thuja in cancer and precancerous states, and I will be running through 3 studies and 2 case reports. One case report will be in detail, but the rest I will just be skimming through in the interest of time. Let's go over the 3 studies. Thuja was studied for its apoptotic and autophagic death union in cervical cancer cells. And what the study showed was that Thuja was able to create a death had an anti-proliferative as well as an anti-migratory effect on CIHA cells by inducing the cellular demise via 2 pathways. One is that of apoptosis and autophagy. We just went through in detail what apoptosis and apoptosis was, and Thuja was able to activate these 2 pathways in the cervical cancer cells. The second study is a cellular study where Thuja contributed to the reactive oxygen species and the P53 gene feedback loop, and thereby induced the apoptosis in mammary cancer, mammary epithelial carcinoma cells. These are the translational values. So what we see was when Thuja was treated on the MCF7 cells, it did generate the reactive oxygen species, which then further translocated into from the nucleus to the cytosol, and then started the second phase of the reactive oxygen species, which then activated the whole apoptotic pathway. The third was a simple inflammatory study where Thuja again showed the anti-inflammatory potential of the aqueous extract was seen, and Thuja was able to reduce the oxidative stress. These are studies, but I'm a clinician, I'm not affiliated to a college, I have to give results to my patients. And the clinical application of this is, here's a lady of septated breast cyst, and from BIRADS 3, like I said, it is the window of opportunity, to BIRADS 1 in a duration of 13 months. Interestingly, these are her reports of before and after. Interestingly, she came to me in 2016 with a cyst of just 8 into 5 mm. But she was Thuja and Phytolacco as and when needed, and a year later she was BIRADS 1. The second case is that of BIRADS 4, suspicious lesion. It was an intraductal papilloma. It is a highly suspicious lesion and ideally surgical in nature, but her oncologist told her to wait and watch. In a span of 1 year, we got the result of a benign BIRADS 2 category. This case was presented at the LMHI, and this is what I'm going to a little bit run through in detail. So an intraductal papilloma is a benign tumor, But it is a high risk precursor lesion because it is associated with atypia and can convert very easily into malignancy. And typical management is surgical. In this case, this is a lady who lives in USA and her oncologist suggested to wait and watch and monitor every 3 months, and so she reached out to me for treatment. She was already my patient for many other conditions. So here's her case overview. She, as I said, it was a BIRATS 4 confirmed by biopsy to be a benign intraductal papilloma. Now she had a long history. First she came for dysmenorrhea, which was helped. Then she had a right lobe thyroidectomy, but there she didn't take homeopathic treatment, but again that was benign. Thereafter she had a polyp which again responded to homeopathy. Her hypertension never responded to homeopathy. And she had a family history of lung cancer. Now interestingly in her case was her life space situation. This was important for her. She herself is a certified art therapist and handling special children. Now she went through a lot of anxiety and stress because she was relocating her 85-year-old mother in COVID era to USA single. Her mother was single and she could not come to India. So this was a huge stress factor. There was also a lot of grief because her mother ran a very successful school in Chennai, which she closed down 5 years earlier, but relocating the mother to USA meant no more India, and it's a closure to a chapter where she grew up. Also taking care of a senior citizen in USA. So the clinical findings of this case was, as I mentioned, BIRATS 4, size of the lesion was 1 into 0.8 into 0.5 centimeters. On biopsy, intraductal papilloma. And the timeline of her treatment was, when we started treating her, her size of the lesion started decreasing from 1 centimeter, 0.8, 0.5, eventually reached 0.7, 0.4, 0.5 centimeters or 7 to 4 into 5 mm. And consistently stayed at BIRATS 2. So once it came to BIRATS 2, which is a benign lesion, it stayed at that level constantly. So her repertorial totality was done through the Bonninghausen's, and what was given was we gave her Thuja, Castor Equi as well as Causticum. We have the Materia Medica, but the reasoning and the rationale behind it was that Thuja was predominantly the miasmatic focus because of all her psychotic features. Causticum was based on the totality of symptoms, and Castor Equi was given as a pathological prescription because it was a single remedy in the repertory. So it was given in conjunction. And the result was a good positive outcome from BIRATS 4 to BIRATS 2 on clinical imaging. The size of the lesion, 65% reduction in the volume. The strength of the case, I would strongly say, is the miasmatic prescription. The totality of the pathological prescriptions was able to coexist, which is again an interesting learning through this case. This case was documented by the Monarch criteria, which is an important criteria on international platforms to show causal attribution of homeopathic intervention to the regression of the lesion. The limitation of this case was the compliance of the patient, because the moment she got BIRATS 2, the physicians in her oncologist said, all right, this is a BIRATS 2, you don't need to worry about it. And thereafter she stopped, became more and more irregular with her homeopathic medicines. Also procuring the medicines from India to the US during the COVID era was a little difficult. This could have contributed to the further reduction in the size. So to sum up, there are numerous studies, there is numerous Materia Medica, numerous repertorial references when it comes to breast health. These studies have shown anti-inflammatory and anti-proliferative, antioxidative and apoptosis inductive capacity of Thuja occidentalis. I am speaking of only Thuja, but there is Calcarea, there is Coneum, there is Phytolacca. There are so many studies available, rich studies available for us to directly pick up and use as clinicians. The clinical application supports the personalized outcome, the customized outcome that we want to give our patients, and they are clearly shown Thuja in its role in precancerous and suspicious lesions. So friends, to conclude, whether it is a BIRATS 4, BIRATS 3, BIRATS 2 lesions of the breast, these all are very, very important window of opportunities that we must enter into. Unique to homeopathy and no other science is the miasmatic understanding of health and prescription. In modern terminology, we may call miasms as predispositions, hereditary predispositions, immune memory, whatever, or a trait. But using that thought process facilitates the prescription. Now, individualized homeopathic medicine facilitates early intervention. Early intervention is very important because, like I said, my original case came for a varicose ulcer. But then she responded to she spoke about breast health. Like this, we will get so many opportunities for early intervention. Early intervention facilitates healthy functioning of the breast, facilitating good lactation, disordered breast management and cure of many benign conditions, and also adjuvant therapy when it comes to cancers. It also can facilitate regression of high-risk suspicious lesions. My gratitude to the Tamil Nadu Homeopathic Medical Council, to RVS College, to the 7 colleges attending here, to all present here. I'm always indebted to my teachers who have stood by me and guided me at every junction. I'm grateful to my team who always are my pillars for ideology, for compiling, for data collection, for data assimilation. My patients who trust homeopathy and me, and my family who tolerates long hours of absence. And just now I spoke to Dr. Uma, who complained of her husband, long hours of absence from home. So gratefulness to everyone in the family. Watching a BIRATS 4 go out as BIRATS 2, no scalpel, no knife, no fear, just quiet listening and sweet homeopathic medication. That's the joy of homeopathy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your moderators to share a few words about the session.
Good evening, dignitaries and delegates. Thank you for the opportunity which is given to me to moderate this session. Actually, ma'am has shared her knowledge about the physiological, pathological and clinical knowledge to this, and she showed how the breast health, that is the BIRATS 4 to 2, she showed it. And to build up the confidence in us, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thank you very much for the organizing committee and other things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to be Principal Sri Bharani Homeopathy Medical College and Hospital to felicitate the speaker and the moderators. I now welcome Dr. Porchilvan, Principal RVS HMC, to present the special gifts for the speaker from RVS Group of Institutions and Excel Group of Institutions.